Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's a football podcast. We're all here, we're all talking football. Going to go through last week's games, going to go through this week's games, bit of football news, transfer info, all of that good stuff, all the sort of stuff you want from a football podcast. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously, the big one is share the podcast around. Word of mouth is a great thing. It's great for podcasting. We would appreciate it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all. Welcome back to the CookieCast Football Podcast, brought to you by us here on the CookieCast Podcast Network. Obviously, I don't do this on my own. I do this with the three gentlemen that are sat with me in this virtual room. Messrs. Cook, Woodmansey, and Moore. How are we this week, gents?
Good. You?
Yeah, we'll get onto it now. But personally, fine. Football reasons wise, yeah, meh would be my personal feelings on the current situation. But that's all much of a muchness. So week 19 is gone. We've got 3 games to discuss from it. The first of which took place at the NKM Stadium. One of us was in attendance for it, I believe, and it did not disappoint.
Well, it sort of did. We'll get into it. However, podcast curse has struck again. Wind back just 1 week to hear how Abu Kamara cost Hull a share of the points against Middlesbrough. Paul, I believe, even uttered the words, should he be allowed to start for the next 2 or 3 games? I wasn't disagreeing. Well, Abu Kamara did start against Leeds. He even opened the scoring after 5 minutes. So it was almost written. In between him being shit against Middlesbrough and this goal being scored, he'd also managed to get himself in a little bit of hot water by posting something on Instagram, commenting on one of his old club's sort of posts, basically not using the right words, being a bit derogatory towards his old team. The current manager, Ruben Sayers, decided to counteract the fact that he was shit against Middlesbrough and his little misdemeanour on the internet by dragging him up for this week's press conference, allowing him to be grilled by the local media. And it seemed to have a little bit of an effect on him because he actually, like I say, netted after 5 minutes. Burstow picked a pass from the left wing. He had to sort of turn and hit it. Found Kamara, who was running through the middle, exactly where you want your winger to be. But it did put him through, and Melier came out, and he just lobbed him, basically. It was quite a long way out. It was a nice finish. I thought, I genuinely, because we were looking down the barrel of it, absolutely thought he'd fucked it, but no, it nestled in the back of the net, thankfully. 1-0 after 5 minutes. One player, however, that did remain consistent, Regan Slater. On 32 minutes, after some good work down the left-hand side by Puerta, he managed to, full-on, smack the post when it was easier to score. Another open goal that he's missed. So that's probably, if we're keeping score, it's either 3 or 4 in the last 6 games that he's absolutely shanked. Hull were good value, really, for the lead at half-time. It stayed 1-0 till the break. But Leeds must have had a fucker rocket at half-time because they came out looking like a different side. Tanaka's equaliser came after just about a minute back in play. So all the good work undone in the space of at most 90 seconds. And it was probably the pick of the bunch in terms of the goals in this game as well. It was a really, really tidy goal. He rifled it into the top right-hand corner from some fair distance. Unfortunately for Hull, things did get worse on 62 minutes as everybody's favourite twat, Dan James, scored pretty much a tap-in. Pandor, McLaughlin and Jones failed to deal with not one, but two quick crosses across the 6-yard box. And up pops Dan James. He always seems to score against us. It's just one of them players. Things got even worse 10 minutes later. Leeds scored a third, and this one was a full-on late Christmas present from Pandor. Playing out from the back, he just passed it straight to Joel Peru. Cheers. Not great. So, we were 1-0 up, then 3-1 down. Leeds fans were having a lovely time in Hull, singing 3-1 in your cup final. We're being mauled by the Tigers, and so on and so forth. But fortunately for me, at least, Hull weren't done. Free kick was floated into the edge of the area. McLaughlin headed it towards the goal, bit of a looping header. Meslier, the Leeds keeper, just did what could only be described as absolutely shat himself. Tickled it against the bar. 3 of his own teammates just watched it drop to the floor whilst Pedro steamed in and battered it into the net to make it 2-3. It was a great reaction from some of the Leeds players as well, because there was a slow motion video released of this in the sort of 2 or 3 days after the game. And rather than helping their teammate and consoling him and getting the team G'd up, they basically just stood around for the next sort of 30 seconds to a minute saying, "The fuck was that?" and having a go at him. So, well done, team. Anyway, the game continued. Leeds headed clear from a corner in the 89th minute. Hull on the attack. As the header looped, it fell to that man again, Abu Kamara, on the edge of the box. Wrapped his foot around it. It was the only volley out. It was a straight volley, didn't bounce first, but then it seemed to roll like a grass cutter P-roller kind of shot. He must have got some hella topspin on it as he touched it, but it wrong-footed the goalkeeper. 89th minute, 3-3. That's how it finished. So it could have been a disaster. It could have been better. I do need to get a little bit off my chest right now. As much as I am one, Hull fans, you drew a fucking game of football. You didn't win a trophy. You didn't win anything, as it happens. I appreciate it was a good bit of momentum. It was a point that effectively we thought wasn't going to happen 2 minutes before the end. Nobody won. Chill the fuck out. That's me done.
Yeah. One of those ones where it doesn't really sort of help when Leeds have been chanting like the 3-1 in your cup final thing, and then you get a draw and you kind of do react like it is your cup final sort of thing.
Well, then it wasn't just like in the stadium. It was the walk from the ground back to town where you may have had the misfortune of visiting the MKM Stadium and walking back into the city centre after a game. It's quite a tight setting. There's 2 footbridges and a like one path that goes over both to get back. And I think it was the most congested I've seen. Certainly the loudest it's been on the way back from a game. And believe it or not, I have actually walked back from the stadium in the last 12 months when we did get 3 points. So, yeah, a bit weird.
What wasn't weird was some of the predictions being thrown around on this podcast. One of which was a draw by Matthew Moore. Didn't go 3-3. He went 0-0. So even though there were 6 goals in this game, he does manage to back himself a point because he did go for the correct result. I just thought that was funny. 6 goals in the game. He went for none. Still gets a point anyway. Also picking up 1 point is Mr. Woodmansey. He went for a 3-1 Leeds win. So obviously at one point he was correct on this one. Puerta, Ramazzani, Nonto, and James to score. So gets his bonus point for the Dan James goal. Andy correctly predicted the number of goals in this game. 6. Sadly, 3 of them happened in the Hull net as opposed to all of them being in the Leeds net. 6-0 he predicted. But does pick himself up 2 bonus points as he had a Joao Pedro and a Kamara goal. So 2 points for Andy. I went for a 1-1 draw. Yeah, basically just 6-0, and he should have really got more. He got 4 points, let's be honest. He should have just basically named every outfield player for Hull and just taken his chance. I went for a 1-1 draw and had Joao Pedro and James to score. So I bagged myself 3 points from that game alone. So 3 points for me, 2 points for Andy, quite a piece with Matt. We move to our next game, which saw my lot Middlesbrough taking on Cardiff City. And from the highlights that I've seen of this one, it's actually Cardiff that opened the game the stronger of the two. Early chance on the edge of the box. A bit of I can't remember who it was that took the shot, but a nice sort of curling effort into the top corner. He drew a very, very good save from Tom Glover, who's the third choice goalkeeper at Middlesbrough, but he's having to play as we discussed in the last episode. Sol Bryn dislocated his shoulder in the game against Sheffield Wednesday on Boxing Day and will be out for the next 3 months. And Seny Dieng's suffering with an illness or some form of injury at the moment. So the gloves are with Glover at the moment. So that early chance for Cardiff was saved by Glover, and Middlesbrough took the lead on the 11th minute when, surprise, surprise, Ben Doak seems to be the key architect in most Borough goals these days. He was released down the right-hand side, did a little step over to beat his man, and drilled the ball across for Latte Lath to finish first time. Loads of the keeper's left. Another one of those ones where keeper probably might do a little bit better with it, but it came at him quick. Very hard to get down and save at the same time. So 1-0 to the Borough. Cardiff came back into it though, and on the 21st minute they equalised. A chance was the ball was clipped into the box. Borough tried to clear the ball. Dale Fry, instead of just putting his foot through it, decided the best thing to do was try and almost back heel it out of the area, but it kind of came off like at a 90-degree angle. So I don't really know how he's done it, but an interesting clearance to say the least. It went straight to the feet of ex-Borough loanee Callum Chambers on the edge of the box, and he, fair play to him, finished it first time, and he's absolutely picked out the top corner of the net. 2 keepers wouldn't have saved it. What a finish! That's how it finished. That's how the game went into half time. After the break, there was a couple of chances for either team. The 2 that stuck in my head was that Latte had a header at the back post that the keeper managed to push wide, and Robinson for Cardiff City had not a free header, but he had a sort of a not as well contested header at the back post and managed to just put it straight wide from 6 yards out. So the game panned out to a 1-1 draw. Disappointing for Borough. Cardiff are one of those teams that you really need to be put into the sword and taking all 3 points at home, really. So 2 points dropped, to be honest with you. Points dropped by me in the predictions as I had a 2-0 Middlesbrough win with a Zaz and Bergzog to score. So no points there. Matt and Andy had both gone 2-0 Borough. Latte Lath and a Zaz for Matt, Latte Lath and Bergzog for Andy. So bonus point there as they both had a Latte Lath to score. Stu went 3-1 Borough. Hackney, Doak and Latte Lath, and then Willock to score for Cardiff. So a point apiece for Stu, Matt and Andy. Our last game of the week took us to the Monday Night Football and Molineux, where Nottingham Forest were in attendance. Old boy rule across the board in this one. Managers an old boy, captains an old boy. There's probably some more Wolves players that I'm forgetting about just chilling out in the Forest ranks. It was quite a night for the old boys, was it not, Matthew?
I mean, if you watched Monday Night Football, you wouldn't have thought that Wolves and I nearly said it, Liverpool were playing, because that's what they seem to spend most of their time talking about. It was by the way, Wolves and Forest are playing right at the end there. Let's talk about everybody else first. It's the most pointless program I've ever seen. And the fact that you hear Jamie Carragher twatter on for hours about absolute nonsense drives me insane. Well, then when the actual game got going, Forest got out to a bit of a flying start. Apparently, the Wolves faithful still haven't got over the fact that Gibbs White left them 3 years ago, even though he'd been on loan at Sheffield United the previous season, and numerous managers had overlooked him. So he obviously moved to Forest. And I don't think particularly kind of forced his way out of Wolves either, but hey ho. I think in his post-match interview, he put it down to banter. From the reports that I've read about what was being chanted, it wasn't banter. It was people being absolute dickheads. I mean, I think, you go to football and you think, yeah, chant within a certain level about the player that you don't like. Don't bring his missus and kid into it, which is apparently what was brought into it by the Wolves fans. So, 7 minutes in, kind of nice touch from Dominguez on the edge of the box. Really, like, kind of, I want to say, you say defense splitting. It was like almost side splitting pass by Elliot Anderson.
That's funny.
It kind of like just took the team out. Gibbs White picked the ball up, drove forward, laid it out to Alanga, who crossed it in properly, as apparently Manchester United wingers can't do. To which then Gibbs White, with a slight deflection, knocked it in the back of the net. Initially looked like he wasn't going to celebrate. He kind of did the whole, let's calm it down thing. And then apparently, I don't know whether the fans gave him another load more shit and then did his celebration where he sticks his fingers in his ears, which was kind of poetic as it was. I think Forest did what they normally do, which is kind of shut up shop a bit. I think they conceded a few chances, but Larson for Wolves struggled to finish some really some of them were quite open goal chances. I think Sells had a good save from him. Murillo blocked one on the line as well. And just kind of about half time, Sells kind of cleared the ball, kind of pinged it across the pitch really, for then Callum Hudson-Odoi to take on Doherty, who's their centre back, who was playing at right back, but showed him a clean pair of heels. Cut it back to Chris Wood, who knocked it in the back of the net to make it 2-0.
Just before you go on with that, can I just say, Matt Doherty needs to stop playing football because he was towing a caravan. Jesus Christ! He looked like he was running in what's even thicker than treacle. I don't know, but Christ Almighty.
I don't know why they're playing him at right back, because he's not a right back, and I've never seen anybody look quite so slow as that. Second half, more of the same. I think Wolves were on the front foot a bit more, but Forest kind of were controlling the game. And then in injury time, about 3 or 4 minutes into injury time, Milenkovic gives it a good old agricultural clearance, to which then Hudson-Odoi and Awoniyi both chasing after it. Hudson-Odoi takes it over, passes it across to James Ward-Prowse, who unselfishly cuts it back across. And on the Forest podcast, Darren Fletcher, the commentator, quite harshly was like, "Don't think I've ever seen Taiwo score outside of the 6-yard box," because of course this was on the edge of the 6-yard box and tucked it in. I mean, he's right. I don't think he has scored from too far out, but he scored a lot of goals. So yeah, just a kind of little bit of the cherry on top of the cake was Taiwo getting a goal. So yeah, finishes 3-0. Yeah, there you go. Level on points with Arsenal.
It's a beautiful thing to hear, and I think we said on the podcast last week the last thing they want to do is get into that mindset of being safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sort of like getting to 40 points, etc., etc. Because obviously they have now hit that point. So first things first, from like a Forest perspective, you'd probably say can breathe a bit more easily now. Safety has been achieved, so we've got at least another season of Premier League football. But don't have that mindset. Have the mindset of, well, we're currently in the top four. We're currently performing better than the team that's in second. So why can't we sort of like, stick around in the sort of...
I mean, and obviously we're coming on to predictions later, and like the run that they're on. So when it was 5 games on the trot, that was the best run that they'd had since '95. So like the best run in 30 years. This is the best. This is the first time Forest have won six top flight games on the bounce since 1966. So a lot of water's gone under the bridge in that time, kind of thing. So it's like not even something that Clough could do. Hopefully, like I think, like last week I said, there's a different mentality to the team. I think if this sounds awful, I don't want to. I'm not slagging Steve Cooper off because obviously he got Forest promoted and stuff like that. I get the feeling that this 40 points would have been the goal, and the foot might have come off if Cooper was manager. I also think if it happens, it sounds weird because it's only next month, but if it would have happened in February, I think sometimes when you hit that kind of 40 mark in February, March time, that's when teams, because we can't achieve anything higher, we can't go any lower, and that's when the foot comes off the pedal kind of thing, whereas they've hit the 40-point mark on the 6th of January, you've got a good chunk of the season left, and there's the potential to kind of get into Europe and stuff like that. And I think it'll come from it'll come calmer kind of delivery from Nuno, probably slightly less calmer from the big boss kind of thing, because I think he wants European football. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do in January now in terms of transfers. Apparently, it's going to be quiet. We've learned that that's not the case, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next kind of few weeks, to see what kind of changes that, or if that changes, or what fuels that going forward.
I mean, you wouldn't have thought they'd want to upset the apple cart too much in the respect of they've got a good thing going at the moment. It depends, like you said, if they're going to be, if they're still wanting to be competitive and not just take their foot off now, they're probably realistically going to have to add 1 or 2.
I think as well though they've got like Danilo's back. He was on the bench on Monday, so that's also almost like a signing because he got injured 15 minutes into the first game of the season. So that's like adding a player. Sangare's, nobody really knows where he is, but is kind of on his way back somewhere. So they're effectively adding 2 players to the team there as well. Yeah, you don't want to, like you said, they've got that really good kind of team unity, and you've got to make sure that you're adding somebody who is also going to be like that, as opposed to coming in and being like, you appear to be trying to get European football. Let me be the saviour. And you're like, we don't need that.
I'll tell you something though, recruitment now will be a lot easier than it was this time 12 months ago.
Oh yeah.
There'll be people jumping over themselves to go there. I would have suggested this time around.
I think it was it Gary. I was listening to Gary Birtles the other day, who's like the bitterest man ever, and he's like, "Bet that Jimenez from PSV, who turned us down in the summer, bet he's regretting that now. I bet he'd sign on the fucking dotted line kind of thing." And it was like really like, Says, right, don't want him anymore. We're going to be shopping in a bigger pool now, kind of thing. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's one of the most infuriating things in the world. Football tribalism is just baffling to me and stuff like that. But I get it, like, support your club, have, like, pride in your club or whatever, but don't ever sort of, like, I'm not so stupid to think that players that are at Borough wouldn't, like, if you offered them a chance to play for a Premier League club, they would snap your hand off for it. And I'm not going to get pissed off at the fact that they want to leave. Whereas, like, certain fans do, and they just think that the club, like the world, like, starts and ends with their club, and I just find it baffling.
Yeah, I think even like you've obviously seen it at Forest over the past few seasons. Like nobody thought Joe Worrell would leave because he's like Forest through and through, and now he's at Burnley. But it's one of them things, kind of thing. Like obviously Johnson as well going to the Spuds. So yeah, they're footballers trying to make a living at the end of the day. It's their job, kind of thing.
Yeah, just part past it. So predictions wise, Matt was the least optimistic of anyone on the podcast as he went for a 2-2 draw. Strand, Larson, and Bueno to score for Wolves. Anderson and Gibbs White to score for Forest, so gets himself a bonus point for the Gibbs White goal. Andy had gone for a 2-0 Forest win. Elanga and Wood to score, 2 points. Stu gone for a 2-1 Forest win. Bellegarde for Wolves, Elanga and Wood for Forest. I saw something in the waters, ladies and gentlemen. I went for a 3-0 Nottingham Forest win, and I was this close to getting this one spot on. I had Gibbs White, Wood, and I had a player starting with A. It wasn't a one year, it was Anderson was my third goal scorer pick. So I was this close to getting 8 points. Well, it would have been 10 points for that. Or a bonus point. I got a bonus point, so it's a 6. So I had to settle for the 4 points for that. 2 points for the correct score. 2 goal scorers. 4 points. Which means, for the week, Matt, a point from each game. Very respectable. 3 points. Stu, 4 points from the 3 games. Even more respectable. Andy, 5 points from the 3 games. But with a whopping 7 points. I didn't even get anything for the second game of the week. So, fuck you, Middlesbrough, basically, is the thing we need to take from that particular upshot. Yes, 7 points. Big pat on the back for Mr. Paul Williams. So,
I think we've also just found the podcast name for
clipping that for the soundboard, by the way.
what, big pat on the back?
No,
Or fuck Middlesbrough?
You saying "fuck you, Middlesbrough." It's breaking the soundboard.
Paul's just named the podcast for next year. That's all it is.
Always. You know what we said about that football tribalism stuff? Yeah, so week 19, done and dusted. Week 20 is FA Cup week for the first part and brings with it 3 games. Middlesbrough versus Blackburn, Nottingham Forest versus Luton, Hull City versus Doncaster Rovers. And then there's a very, very juicy Premier League fixture between Nottingham Forest and Liverpool on the back end, as it were. So, we are going to take a very short break and then we'll come back straight at you with predictions from Middlesbrough versus Blackburn Rovers right after this. And just like that, we're back. So, first game, as we said, Middlesbrough versus Blackburn Rovers. Strange, this one with the FA Cup. I think this is the first time in the FA Cup that they've got games on Thursday, I noticed. So they've got Thursday games all the way through to, I don't know if it finishes on Monday or if it goes as long as Tuesday. But it feels like they've almost turned the FA Cup into the international break. Because obviously that had the window of games that started on the Thursday and worked all the way through to the Tuesday.
I think the BBC will be describing it as a week-long festival of football, will they not?
Yeah.
At Forest Green Rovers versus whoever is there.
Yeah, exactly. Feast of football for Rochdale versus Burton Albion. Ooh, tasty. Obviously, viewership just tanked in both Rochdale and parts of outer Derbyshire. So I'll no one cares about Derbyshire. So Middlesbrough versus Blackburn Rovers. It's at 12 a.m. No, 12 p.m. 12 a.m. would be a very strange kickoff time for a football. 12 p.m. in the afternoon. Not live on any TV channel, unless apparently you live in the United States. As all of these games pretty much are not on regular TV or on ESPN Plus. So if you're a Borough fan who lives in the United States and you've got access to ESPN Plus, get yourself on there, get watching. Obviously, it's my team. I will give my prediction last. What I did say earlier in the group text was these games are all one and done ties, no replays. So if needs be, there will be extra time and of course penalties to settle the game on the day. So let's first go to Andy for his Middlesbrough versus Blackburn prediction.
I've got a Borough 2-1 win. Almost no surprises. Latte and Bergzorg just got for the Borough. And although we've been throwing shade at Derby, I've gone with what I can only presume is pronounced Bath.
Batth?
Yes.
Lovely. Matthew?
I've gone for a 1-0 Borough win with Latte Lath. Blackburn don't concede many goals. They also do not score very many goals. So, 1-0.
You?
I have gone for a 1-0 Borough win on the same basis as Matt. Blackburn don't score or concede. I figured that there's probably going to be a bit of squad rotation going on, and for both sides. And probably, I think, hasn't this guy possibly just come back, or is on his comeback from injury? He's had a few substitute appearances, but he is generally a first team player. So I've gone for McGree.
McGree's a strange one because I don't know if he's just a bit brittle and they sort of take him out of games to sort of let his body heal. I don't know if it's technically that he's injured. I think he's just a bit. Well, he's a weak Aussie, isn't he? Let's be honest. I've gone for a 1-1 draw on this one, and then Borough to win on penalties. Now, I think when it comes to sort of like the single ties, I think I'm kind of willing these into existence because off the top of my head, I don't know if there's ever been a penalty shootout on the Riverside. There certainly hasn't been one that I can recall. Any game that Borough won on penalties has always been away from home. So I'd kind of like to see a penalty shootout on the Riverside for some strange reason. I've gone for Hackney and Cantwell to score the goals. Our next tie is 3 p.m. on Saturday and sees Nottingham Forest taking on Luton Town. Obviously, it's Matt's team. He will give his prediction last. I've gone for a 2-0 Forest win on this one with a 1-ye to get both goals. Stu?
I've gone for 2-0 Forest with a 1-ye for one and Yates for the other.
Very nice. Oh, Matt, you might be able to help me on this one. Yates didn't start against Wolves. Was that just like... Was he suspended for the game before?
Yeah. So, he's picked up shockingly, he's picked up 5 yellow cards already this season. I mean, some might say, how's it taken him this long, to be honest? But, so he just picked up, he was suspended for the game, the Everton game. It's a difficult one because him and Dominguez are very much a similar player. I think Dominguez is better. I know I shouldn't say it, but Dominguez is probably better and deserves this spot. I think the team flows better when he's playing. Yates comes in and does the spoiler role, so I think he is fit. He's just Dominguez is getting the game ahead of him at the moment.
Yeah. On the just quickly on the bookings thing, I thought it was absolutely quality. I think there was a guy called, he might have been ex-Forest, James Perch.
Yes.
Remember when he signed for Newcastle and he got booked in each of his first 5 games? So by his 6th game for the club, he already had a suspension. Thought that was absolutely textbook. Andy, what have you got down for Forest versus Luton?
So it must be something in the water. I've got a 2-0 Forest win. Wood and Alanga.
Very nice. Is Matt going to give us a clean sweep of 2-0 Forest wins?
I am. Yes. Yeah, so I've got 2-0 Forest. I've gone Awonyi and Jota. I think a lot of the bench players will get a run out. It'll be.
Do you want me to put Jota, or do you want me to put Wish Grealish?
Jota, because he's better than Grealish.
Hey, there we go.
Grealish
Well,
Wish Jota.
He's had goal contributions in the last sort of, lifetime, so probably makes him better than Grealish. Right, 2 games down, 2 games to go. The next of which sees Hull City taking on Doncaster Rovers. And this is, of course, in the infamous Sunday at 12 p.m. slot that everyone was requesting. It's Mr. Woodmansey's team. He will give his prediction last. Andy, what have you got down for Hull versus Doncaster?
Well, a Hull 2-1 win.
Lovely.
Badia and Burstow score for Hull, and Sharp to score for Doncaster.
Old boy rule very much in effect there. Matthew?
I've also gone for a 2-1 Hull win. I've got Burstow and Slater. And Billy Sharp to score for Doncaster. I don't know how I ended up watching it. I ended up watching the Doncaster Kettering game in the last round. That pitch was shocking. But Billy Sharp was the absolute difference between the two teams, because Doncaster were shit and Kettering were also shit. But Billy Sharp had 2 chances and finished both of them to win the game for Doncaster. But yeah, Christ almighty.
You love to see it. It's very much that thing where lower league pitches are definitely an equaliser when it comes to the 3rd round or like whatever round of the FA Cup.
My dad texted me and said that he didn't think he'd played on a pitch as bad as that when he played like Saturday, Sunday league. That was the quote. He's like, I've never played on a pitch that bad. It was. Bobbly would be polite.
Yeah.
It's like they let a herd of cows rumble across it for kind of a couple of hours before they started playing.
Yeah, the phrase my dad always used to use was it was usually reserved for whenever they played at Newport County, because they share that pitch with the Newport Gwent Dragons or whatever they're now called in would be. And I believe it was, oh my God, I can't believe they have to scrabble around on that fucking cabbage patch. So that was nice. I've gone for a bit of a goal fest in this one. Hull have been involved in obviously a 3-3 in the last week or so. So I've gone for them to win 3-2 on this one. I've gone for a goal each for what I believe is all of the strikers. So I've gone for João Pedro, Burstow, and BDA to score. And then, of course, old boy rule, I've got one for Sharp. But Donny have a couple of ex-poolies in their ranks, and Luke Molyneux is one of them who is on quite a bit of a tear this season. So I've gone for Molyneux to get the other goal. Now, I know for a fact that you are not going to be in attendance for this one, but how do you see it panning out nevertheless?
Correct. Not going to be in attendance for a multitude of reasons, one of which being the stand that I normally sit in isn't even open for this game. Ticket sales have gone so well. The south and north stands aren't going to be open, so there'll be nobody behind either goal, just down the sides of the pitch. The new manager has taken a bit of a liking to some of the younger players. Harry Vaughan's been coming on, and Rocco Coyle, Louis' younger brother, was on the bench against Leeds. Probably going to play them all, if I'm fully honest, in the Doncaster game, I should expect. So I've gone for Hull 0, Doncaster 1, Billy Sharp to score. We don't do cup runs unless we start by playing you at your place, Paul. So,
I was going to say, we don't do cup runs, says the man who literally within the last 10 years has seen his team get to an FA Cup final. So...
Yeah, they used all of their cup games in one season. That was the...
True. Couldn't help notice that you said Louis Coyle's younger brother Rocco. So I can only presume he's about, 46?
No, he's actually just graduating from the under-21s. He hasn't yet, still is too.
So, 3 games down. FA Cup done and dusted now, which leaves us with Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool. So this is third, but only on goal difference, playing first in the midweek round of fixtures. I think it's a full slate for the Premier League, so this one probably will be on Prime? Oh, no, it's a TNT. These are a TNT set of fixtures, these ones. Obviously, it's Mr. Mo's team. He will give his prediction last. I can't for the life of me remember how this one turned out earlier in the season. Does anyone remember? Oh, that's it. It was Liverpool's only loss at home so far this season. To Nottingham Forest. I don't think there will be a winner in this one. I've gone for a 2-2 draw in this game. I've gone for a goal each for Wood and Elanga for Forest. Salah and Jota to score for Liverpool. Andy?
I think there will be a win, but I do think it's going to be a bit of a goal fest. 3-2 to the Forest.
The double over Liverpool, no less. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 2 for Wood and 1 for Gibbs White. And then I've got a goal for Salah and Alexander Arnold.
Of all the double-barreled names you could have given me, Alexander Arnold is so long to write down.
Just put double A. Job done.
I mean,
there's always that thing about never trust a guy with 2 first names. Well, where does he rank then?
3 first names, he's got game. Yes, unfortunately, Andy, double A is reserved for Mr. Arn Anderson. Viewers of the wrestling podcast will definitely know that name. Stu, what have we got down for Forest versus Liverpool?
I'm with you. I don't think there will be a winner this time, as much as I would love Forest to do the double over that filthy pile of bricks. I have gone for 1 goal for Wood and 1 goal for Diaz.
Not Ruben Diaz, Luis Diaz. Apologies. Right, Matt. How would you reckon the second game this season is going to pan out? Of course, obviously, we have to just state at this point, contractually, that the game earlier in the season was Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 1.
So, obviously, yeah, we won the game earlier on in the season. I'm worried about this one. This one, I think I said to you guys at the time, the interviewed slot after whatever the last game of the year was for them, and they said to him, "Oh, you've only lost 1 game all year," and he had like this glint in his eye of like, "Yeah, that was against Nottingham Forest. They did very well," and I was like, "Oh shit, that's like 3 weeks away. That's not going to be good." And I think it's that kind of thing. And we've had like a couple of kind of dud performances on telly when it's like a prove it game. So like the Newcastle game comes to mind. With that being said, I've gone for a 3-0 Liverpool win. I think we could be on for a hiding. I mean, obviously, Man City gave us a hiding as well a while back as well. So I'm concerned that it could go south very quickly. I hope it doesn't, but if they get on a roll and he sends them out like, remember, this is the only team that's beaten us all season. Go and sort that out for me. And this is the only team that beat me all of last year. Definitely go and sort that out for me. And if he's got that kind of like, if the team have got that camaraderie, then yeah, I think it could be troubling, would be my kind of thing. So yeah, I've got Salah, Nunez, and Trent Alexander-Armstrong.
I was.
I was waiting for that. Oh, and if you don't get the reference that Paul just made, that's absolutely pointless.
Oh, very nice, lovely. Obviously, Stu did say there, obviously, something about the filthy set of bastards. If they do, however, get to the Carabao Cup final and play Newcastle, I will, of course, be a Liverpool fan for the day. So let's just reserve a little bit back, just in case we do need them at some point. Because let's be honest, if that filthy set of black and white bastards ever actually do win a trophy, we'll never fucking hear the end of it. So please, Liverpool,
and I appreciate that, but it's kind of the same if Liverpool win anything as well. At the moment, we can still cling on to them winning the Premier League when nobody was there to see it.
But because Liverpool have had success and won trophies consistently over the years, I can kind of get on board with it. It's okay. They're irritating, but they'll go back in their box after a couple of hours and stuff like that. Whereas them fuckers, they will not shut up about it for the rest of time. And it'll be literally like no one's ever won a trophy before. Like they've just created it or something like that.
It'll be doubly unbearable because I think it's like literally 70 years. Their last trophy was in 1955, so it's 70 years this year. So I don't know why it'll be more annoying that it'll be kind of a nice round number, but there'll be some unbearable kind of thing to go with it as well. So yeah, Arsenal have let us down already, but what a shock that is.
Oh no, but Matt, I don't know if you've seen this. Did you see that it wasn't their fault though? It's because the footballs weren't the Premier League footballs that they were using. Is they're a bit lighter. They're a bit lighter and they fly over the bar a bit easier. I think what you meant there, Mikel Arteta, is your strikers were just shit.
Or they were playing with penny floaters from Mozzers or something like that.
Yeah, exactly that. They'd been down Brid Seafront and bought some plastic balls to chuck on instead to get them into the multi-ball system.
I think someone had put on that. Someone had put on because obviously he'd raised that as the issue, and someone had gone, yeah, but in your previous matches, your stats are exactly the same as the Premier League ones. It's just this game hasn't gone that way, and obviously he's gone. Well, that doesn't fit into my rhetoric, so fuck off.
I think what it was is that the entire interview, they wanted to be, what did you think to the game? And he just went, balls, and then realised he had to carry on talking.
I would have respected him more if he would have said, well, what we wanted to do is give Newcastle a little bit of hope so then we can just completely stomp on it in a couple of weeks in Newcastle. And I would be like, fair enough, crack on.
You know what? I think if that was the game plan, then I'd probably get on board with it because it's better to see 55,000 Johnny crying at one point than it is anything else. So
it's apart from the fact that I don't think it'll happen, and it'll be really annoying to be there when it does when they do go through. I would be really tempted to buy a ticket just in case it all went tits up and you could sit in the ground as it all went wrong and you just see them crying. Could you just imagine? That'd be 3-0 to Arsenal. Oh no, what are we gonna do?
They say that KFC is finger licking good. Nothing tastes as sweet as that particular outcome. Let's be honest.
I'd be there.
No.
I'd get my big box of tissues out. In fact, I'd get a big
Oh,
bag.
Matt, you can't do that in the stadium, man. Come on.
Be handing them out. Dry your tears, lads. There you go. I bought tissues for you all.
That brings us to the end of the predictions, ladies and gentlemen. As it is January, the transfer window is now open. Now, I say that fully knowing that there has been no transfer business at Middlesbrough as of yet. The only thing of note is that they've recalled some loanees. Sonny Finch, Terrell Agyeman, and Zach Hemming have come back to the club. Zach Hemming has gone straight back out on loan to St Mirren, which is the team we spent the last season on loan at. He was recalled from his loan at Leyton Orient because he wasn't getting fucking games. So they've sent him back out on loan to St Mirren, so he probably will play a little bit more. As for the other two, I imagine they'll probably go back into the under-21s. Sonny Finch was sort of on the cusp of the first team at some point during the last sort of season or two, but he had a nasty injury which took him out of action. But wouldn't be surprised if he plays a part against Blackburn on Saturday, to be honest with you, as he goes with the old rotation and stuff like that. So that's about it for Borough. I think Stu, you said there was a couple of outs from Hull.
Correct. One loan, one permanent. So one of the summer signings under Tim Walter, Marvin Malem, came from Germany on a permanent deal. Apparently had a clause in his contract that if things didn't go to plan, he could spend the second half of the season back out on loan at a German side of his choosing. Firstly, if that's true, big-headed bastard, because they've got to want you first. Secondly, it did actually come to fruition that he hasn't been all that great the first half of the season, so he has gone back to his homeland and he's joined SC Paderborn or Paderborn. That's officially on loan until the end of the season. I would suggest he's absolutely played his last game in a Hull shirt at this point in time. And the other one, which was a bit of a surprise, not a regular name to the podcast, though you might remember this from the beginning of the season. There was a bit of a set two over a young winger by the name of Will Jarvis. He'd spent most of 2024 on loan at the Ireland Premier Division club Shelbourne. It's somebody that Shelbourne is a club that Hull have got a link with through the owner. Shelbourne weren't particularly happy that the manager at the time had recalled him back to Hull. I was going to say they'd had a bit of a paddy, but I don't know where we stand on that one. After that, he played a little bit, but not a lot. So I think they got even more angry about the fact that we'd recalled him. Well, they can do whatever they want now because he's been sold permanently to Notts County. Bit of a strange one, but they've signed him on a 3.5-year deal. Officially, he made 7 appearances for Hull in sort of league standing. But whilst he was with Shelbourne, he did score 11 goals in 37 games and featured in Europa League qualifiers for them. So he's a young lad. He's got a bit of experience. Apparently, not like Notts County have been after him for a little while, but I think they'd probably say that about anybody, them lot. But it seems a reasonable signing. He was definitely highly sought after in the summer when there was all the hoo-ha about him. So good luck to him. It's a shame it didn't work out for him at Hull, particularly when we could really do with some wingers right about now. Obviously, not going to get it once the other guys come back. He's too far down the pecking order to get regular football, so he's just decided that's it.
Fair enough. Matt, are you aware of anything that's happened at Forest, either in or out? Or
last point on Will Jarvis. Sorry, he's actually from York.
Ah,
so link there as well. but he'll anything that they've sold him for as well, undisclosed, will in theory will be pure profit. So.
Yes, Matt. Any news of any sort of stuff either in or out?
The only ones we've got is the only one we've had. We recalled a striker from Rotherham because he wasn't getting a game and then got injured in training. He was meant to go there. Like 19-year-old Songo, Esper Songo. He wasn't getting the game. So they recalled him, but he's got injured as well, so they're kind of helping him with his recovery back at Forest. I think the main business at the moment at Forest is trying to tie Murillo and possibly Gibbs White, Aina and Wood down to new contracts. So we've activated a 1-year extension on Aina's contract to try and obviously so he can't go on a free. Because apparently Man City were sniffing around and a few other clubs. And yeah, so the kind of current kind of thing is offering Murillo a new contract, getting possibly Gibbs White on new terms, and then Chris Wood, whose contract is runs out in the summer, and Aina, who should have been running out in the summer, but has had his contract extended for a year. So yeah, just trying to get them tied down. Kind of one security. It sounds awful. You don't really want to think about it too much, but like the main kind of thing being is if they do come to be sold, we can maximise the profit out of particularly Aina, Murillo, and Gibbs White. Obviously, Chris Wood. We're probably not looking to sell him. But yeah, that kind of the Aina one is a one you want to get done quickly, because even now you're looking at people trying to fleece you for less because he's only got a year left on his deal. So, and particularly when Forest took a punt on him at a time when not many other clubs were willing to. So, yeah, so that's it at Forest. Nothing much yet, but we know what the deal is.
Yes, indeed. The further we get into the year, the further we get into January, the more teams will panic. And I dare say Borough will have to fend off more than a couple of bids for one or two of their higher thought of players. But we'll see what happens. It'll probably happen on the last day, and I'll have to, shed a few tears because my team's become shitter than it once was. But that's for the end of January's podcast, not for now. So all that's left for me to do is to say thank you to you, the listeners and the watchers. Thanks for joining us once again. If this is your first time here, if this is the first time you've stumbled across the podcast, welcome. Maybe think about subscribing to the channel. It's not just us here at the football podcast that we have for you. We have a weekly NFL podcast that's, even though it's hit the playoff portion of the season, the regular season is over, we're into playoff football, we'll still be cranking out the material once a week for you in relation to the American football. We then have a monthly wrestling podcast. If wrestling's floating your boat, obviously it's now available on Netflix, not just in the UK but worldwide. So we break down each premium line event that happens each month. We go through that, we make our predictions, and we round up all the news and happenings that's gone on. And then Mr. Cook has his weekly therapy session of sorts, I suppose, where he just sort of unloads his brain. The Darkest Timeline podcast, all well worth a listen. Join us again next week, where we will dust ourselves down. Hopefully we'll be coming back to you with 3 teams in round 4 of the FA Cup. Obviously, Stuart doesn't want that. He wants Doncaster to make it through to the next round. So we'll have to wait and see. But yes, we'll be back with you in a week's time. Until then, take care of yourselves, keep an eye out for each other, and we'll see you next week. Tatty bye for now.
So there we go. What do you think of that? Football done. Football done for the week. Last week done. Next week done. It's all done. Come back next week, find out how those games shaped up. Oh, yes. Before you leave, if you haven't already, I'm not saying you haven't, I'm just saying if you haven't already, maybe think of clicking a like, share the podcast around a bit, subscribe if you already haven't subscribed. All of those things help out the podcast. If you're feeling super nice, super nice, you could leave a review. There's a few different places you can leave reviews. You could leave one. You could be a reviewer. Also, check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. That is this week's football. Join us next week for more football. Until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.